There you go. Somebody wants to be in the sun. All right, I will. You ready?
I'm just gonna try to make a comment real quick. I don't think there is.
Okay. I will call this meeting to order. It is 6 p.m. We'll do a roll call. Let's see. Robert. Merle.
Here.
Glenn. Heidi. Here. Jenny. Here. Kelsey. Here. Crystal. Here. If you'll join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I'll open the floor for agenda consideration.
Make a motion that we accept the agenda as presented.
Do I hear a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any public comment? Last call. Hearing none, we'll move on. Board communication, high school ASB report.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. It's been a good night. Starting off with the basics, ASB, it's been kind of slow for us right now, just like spring sports assemblies, fall, winter sports assemblies, kind of a slow time. But we are hoping to host our annual responders dinner around the middle of May, and so we're excited for that. We have all the local fire departments, responders, police departments come out for a pizza dinner at the school. So that should be fun when that happens. Again, like I think middle of May-ish, but not set in stone yet.
Yeah, and then moving on to robotics, I can't read that, oh my gosh. While our 2024-2025 season is over, they will begin recruiting the new members for next year, starting May 12th. And they will meet from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays. Everyone is welcome to join.
And then Key Club, I know recently they did a little courtyard decoration thing with some rocks out of their high school. And they're also planning to help out at the Aurora Cemetery cleanup. The Tulip Festival parking, I don't know if any of you guys go to that, but they'll be out there working the parking there. And then as well as the Woodburn Mayor's Breakfast, like they do every year.
And then, oh my word, the National Honor Society has opened applications and they were due today. And for all the people that have been accepted, the tapping will be on May 16th. And that is it. for National Honor Society.
And then Miss Bailey kind of has a little message she'd like us to read out along with her club update. For May Day, they're working on the mural for this year's theme, which is, I think it's like dinosaurs, like prehistoric.
It's like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. But they're also opening auditions, getting act together. And then her message that she wanted us to read out, was that this year, 17 regularly attending art club students have been participating in the pre-announced activities, not limited to the kindergarten fence art and primary school bus lineup numbers. They will be presenting the welcome street banners at the Hubbard City Council tomorrow night, as well as the completing of the May Day backdrops and set design. Unfortunately, at this time, due to proposed program cuts and position shifts, it appears the kindergarten fence art and the bus lineup numbers will not be started. In addition, due to these circumstances, the NHS chapter will not be able to complete further community outreach until the visual arts program resumes. No other updates from any other clubs. That's kind of our spiel. Should be a fun spring term, I think, though. Yeah, I guess.
I think it should be very
Yeah.
good.
So thank you guys.
Thank you. Hey, how was prom?
It was good.
Good.
I had fun. Yeah, it was really good. How was the beach? It was good. That was
Alright.
fun. And then prom king and queen were really cute too. It was a good night. It was really fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you guys. Have a nice night.
Yeah. UNME.
Not here for that.
So public meeting laws, changes and training dates. So I asked Diane and Dan to gather some information around this because for each one of our terms, this is now a required training by, I don't remember, it's an ORS or an OAR.
I'm not sure.
I think it's in there. House Senate Bill 1502. So there's a couple different pieces there. There's an OSBA webinar training. And there's an Oregon ethics training that you can select from. It is like, I think 2 or 3 hours long, so you need to allocate some time to that. And my goal is that all of us would have it done by the end of the year. So just to keep that in the forefront.
So, did we say end of year, you mean, school year?
Yeah, by the end of the calendar year, yeah, you should
Yeah, by
probably,
December. I
yeah,
don't know if it matters for me anymore, but I took it anyway.
okay, excellent.
Cause I did it at, one of the conferences I went to.
Oh, perfect. So.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, you'll have an opportunity to do it if you attend November conference or the conference in. I
It
think
might
was
be, will
July
there
or
be a
August.
summer one?
Yeah. September this year?
Summer.
Summer,
Summer.
okay. And then again, this is a reminder to fill out your SEI filer if you have it. The deadline's tomorrow with tax day. So just to double check on that. And then E is the board candidate list of people who have filed for May 20th, 2025 special district elections. And then the board is acknowledging an overnight extended field trip for the high school drama club to go to the Shakespeare Festival in Ashland. That brings us to consent agenda. If you've had a moment to review the consent agenda, I would entertain a motion. Yeah.
I'll move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Business and budget.
Evening.
Hello.
I just brought up the summary page for the general fund. We're at that time of year where we're really just waiting and waiting and waiting for information. So as you can see by what I updated there in the April part, we're watching the numbers closely because whatever we do get or don't get matters for our ending fund balance for this year, which will help with next year's budgeting. We did get numbers for high cost disability for the state school fund for 23-24, and they were all wrong. And so they're hoping to get us out new numbers tomorrow, but we don't know. So it's really a guessing game right now as to where we're gonna land. We have, they have so much federal uncertainty. They're also worried about giving us numbers for our grants, our federal grants, and what they may give us for that because of the federal uncertainty. So there's a lot in the play that's going on into where we're at or where we're not gonna be, because we fund so many people out of federal grants anymore that, you know, it matters if I don't get enough to fund as many as I normally do or not. So that kind of is a bugger right now. We still are very hopeful that we'll get a little more money out of some PERS actuarial money, that not actuarial, PERS money that's in this reserve pot that they're gonna spread over 2 years. But we do have to keep in mind, that's only 2 years' money, not for life. And we won't know till late May, early June as to whether or not we get it. So I'm trying not to count on that because I don't know. So, and like I said, the high cost disability, they're still looking at and hoping we get something. But with this federal uncertainty, they're waiting also for the May forecast. That might matter too. You know, I want to note while I'm talking about all this, as I'm building the budget for 25-26, the FTE reductions that we're making. And basically what we've done with all of our resignations and our retirements and our not hiring back any of the contracted employees or the people that were on temporary contracts, we're down about 30 staff members, which is over 12% of our budget, of our budgeted staff. So it's a lot and it's hard. And it's been wearing on our staff and all of us doing this work. We are in negotiations with classified, and so that's a piece of what's going on and that we don't know also. But, you know, we are hopeful that we can get some of this money that I'm talking about so that we can add some staff back, because to reduce staff in 1 year by 12% is a lot.
Yeah, so I think, like Linda said, 12% in 1 year is a lot to absorb, in addition to the emotional toll that it's taken on our staff, both in those who've had reductions and people that have had to make some adjustments. And so we've been taking some steps to, like Linda said, if we get some funds, more funds from the state, or get some better ideas of what we might be able to add back. We've been having those conversations with our administrative team and all of our supervisors. And so I did ask Deanne and Stacy, I'm not sure if it was asked or voluntold, but I did think, you know, it might be worthwhile to hear from our principals, what would an add back of a staff member at one of our schools, what would that mean for students? And so I've asked each of them to share at least a little something from their buildings as to what would an add back at the high school mean for our students?
Well, if we're able to add back, we would be able to return some of our college credit classes. We've had to eliminate 2, 3 programs. And so hopefully with that coming back, we can bring some of those classes back. The other one is bring a staff member back, but reduce the size of our freshman classes. And that will help with our 9th grade on track data.
And so again, I think when we think about what does this mean for students and the goals of the district, kids earning college credit is a big difference for kids, their families. And if one of our district goals is 9th grade on track, prioritizing freshmen having lower class sizes should be a priority.
And in
Stacey?
the middle school, as I'm really hoping, we're trying to support learning in our students in the core subjects, math and English ELA. Even just adding 1 person back would bring our core subjects down by about 2 to 3 kids per class, which would make a difference. And so I know that the whole process is ongoing,
Yeah.
but that idea of thinking about how best to support our students, we're hopeful for hopefully making a little dent back, back on the getting our numbers into a more manageable piece.
And so one of the things we've been asking for them, or asking input from our principals and supervisors, is asking them what their priorities are. And with that, there's an expectation that there's a numeric reasoning or support for why that is added back. So you heard if we added back a staff member, X number of kids would get college credit. So there's a numerical reason to support the advocacy for a position. Or if we add a position back, class sizes would be reduced by 2 to 3. So I'm not just asking for feelings, I'm asking for a numerical reason for why is that a priority for your building? So that if we get to this place where we have a better sense of what our budget looks like, we've done that work around what are our priorities, because we're hearing advocacy, we're hearing 2nd grade classrooms are big, so we should be looking at that, and we want to be ready to respond to at which of our schools or schools would we consider adding back if we're able to, so.
And I need that priority list in order to budget, so if I have in my head, maybe we'll get another, just pick a number, $250,000. Then where would I budget that so that we don't have to come back, or the next person doesn't have to come back in the middle of next year and redo the appropriations? It would be something maybe we put in the budget, but we don't hire or spend for it or add back until we're positive on the amount of money we get.
And in addition, I've made it clear when we've had some conversations that I know that this board, or at least we're about ready to go into budgeting. I know that this budget has a 3% contingency. I know that makes the board feel uncomfortable. And that one of the things in building that is a priority for the board too. So I'm just want to make it sure it's out there that we are reminding people that this board has at least expressed a willingness to consider that this year, but it's a priority for the board moving forward that we build that contingency back up. So those are all conversations that we're having when we have conversations about budget reductions, but also building up that contingency for the future, so.
Any questions? If you don't mind, I'm just gonna go around the table really quick.
Sure.
Robert, good. Merle?
This goes back really to the consent agenda, and I know we approved it while I was collecting my thoughts, but we showed a resignation of a second grade teacher, and you mentioned second grade. And that was effective in February. Are we covering that with substitutes, or is that what enlarged the class size?
Normally, when we have a resignation, they'll finish out the school year. So that it doesn't affect this school year. It would be for next school year.
That is,
The date given there was February 4th, I just,
that might have been the date the
they
resignation
received.
was given, but
but it wasn't effective.
correct.
Some of the others were listed as June. This one wasn't.
So maybe some follow-up after
Yeah.
offline.
Yeah,
That's over and down, but I was just putting those two together and
Right.
raised the question.
and the advocacy really is coming around what our first grade numbers are at that are rolling into second grade and trying to kind of what people are seeing as potential class sizes, so.
Any other questions, Merle?
When say we underestimated local income, does that mean we have that much less than? what we
Underestimating
expected?
it can be good because then we'll get more. So when you get your state school fund, the local revenue is taken away from that. So if we overestimate, then they'll take more away.
So it means you're getting more than
Yeah,
you
we could get
expected,
more.
not the other way.
So it can go both ways depending on what you're looking at. Transportation is a tricky one too.
Thank you.
Heidi?
No, thank you.
Jenny?
No, thank you.
Kelsey? Thank you so much, Linda, for all the work you do on here,
Yeah.
on the budgeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else to add before? Okay. We'll go to board action.
Oh, am I up again?
Yeah, actually, I just spaced
Yeah.
that, I just like, oh.
Hold on. Let me get back and go to where I'm supposed to be. Sorry, you guys, I totally spaced what I have.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, trying to get my appropriations correct for 24-25. I missed appropriating a transfer from a special revenue fund to the debt service, and that was to finish up the construction, so I'm just making that one right. And then, the last couple of years, I've had the finding where I've overspent for debt service, and underspent somewhere else because of our GASB 87 and 96. So I took some time, like hours, to try to figure out what those numbers are gonna be. So I believe these appropriation adjustments will cover it. We shouldn't have a finding in that area. I'd like to come out with a really clean audit for the new person. So what I need is for you to approve the resolution, re-adopting the appropriations as I've stated. So any questions on that? I think I wrote it pretty well in my memo.
Do you want it read like making appropriations or adopting the budget?
Making appropriations as shown, as the revisions show, or something to that effect.
Okay. Be it resolved that the amounts for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, for the purposes shown below are hereby appropriated
As revised.
as revised.
Thank you.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Now I think I'm done.
So I just want to remind the board that, This is our superintendent official evaluation report. Being brought into, we had some discussion in executive session, and this is being brought in to be presented in an open public meeting. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the superintendent official evaluation report.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Moving to a vote, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, and we are so thankful for you.
Thank you for the evaluation, and I really appreciate the process.
Okay, district operations reports. Oh,
Well,
Over to you.
so we have an operations report here, that David Schultz has put together. Diane was going to be here to answer any questions, but she is not feeling well. And so there really isn't anyone prepared to respond to this unless Linda or somebody knows a specific answer, but otherwise, I think this is a requirement for us to do annually.
Okay, so if you have questions regarding this document, please email Dan
Yeah.
after the fact.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yep, we're ready for you. Thanks.
Right. Well, good evening, everyone. We are gonna be talking really quickly about our presentation of our integrated plan that is going to ODE at the end of this month. The integrated plan, we'll present it, and then ODE goes through a review panel, so it's still up for some negotiations with ODE, and as things are finalized, we'll bring you updated reports as well. But to start, I want to just kind of give you a little bit of a background, especially since we have some new board members. Just a reminder that the integrated program was designed to take a bunch of grants that we normally had to do a bunch of different plans for and put them all together. Though, as Linda and I will attest to, we still have to report on them as if they're all separate, which, you know, it's just the fun of the work, I suppose. But it's a combination of the SIA accounts, our continuing improvement plans, our CTE plans, our high school success plans, Everyday Matters, which is our attendance work, as well as early indicator and intervention systems, which is like a little teeny bit of money that we get every year. The plan that we develop has to have these 5 components. We have to really look to be making actions that are around equity and improving access for all students. We're looking to expand our CTE access, and that comes out of the high school success work. We're looking to improve academic achievement for all students, build staff development so that our teachers have the right skills to be able to execute these things, and improve our family engagement. So these are all different parts of the planning process, and I won't go into a lot of detail with this, save to just point out that we use the ODE equity lens as part of our process. We do a comprehensive needs assessment. If you remember a few months back, I talked about what that comprehensive need assessment revealed for us. And that's looking at a lot of different pieces of data to kind of say, where are we seeing gaps that we need to address? We also wanted to, we took information from our community, and we used our listening sessions and our youth truth data as a big component of that. What are we hearing from our families, our areas of need? And then we kind of put all those things together to create a plan around what are our specific actions we're trying to do, and how do we want to invest money to kind of make the progress we're looking to make. So this just is what the ODE equity lens is, and I won't read through this, but it's there for you guys to review. A big component of the ODE equity lens, though, is just really trying to identify, when we make decisions, who are these decisions impacting, and what should we see if that impact is positive or negative, and then how can we use that to make sure that we're making good investments with our funds that really improve equitable access for all students. So in terms of our community engagement, as I said, we use our youth truth data as well as the community listening sessions that Dan held and our staff listening sessions to kind of hear what our families are telling us in terms of our needs. And in reality, we're all really aware of what our community has identified. There's a lot of places of pride that they have in our district, but also places where they want to see us stepping up to improve outcomes for their students. So our needs assessment revealed very similar things. This is an example, just a small example of all the different pieces of data that we looked at. From our district data, like our school calendars and our CTE dashboards and our licensures, to state testing data, to school-based assessments. And I will tell you that school-based list is extensive. It's in that board report that I provided a few months ago. And then there's school-based data as well, things like analyzing our master schedule, analyzing student schedules, looking at course enrollment, 9th grade on track data, high school graduation data, attendance data, behavior data. All of those things kind of feed into our understanding of where our schools have gaps and how we can help start to close those gaps using these funds. So as I talked about a few months ago, our needs assessment highlighted the following areas. We really want to look at instructional excellence and our curriculum alignment so that we can see students achieving at higher levels. We want to look at data-based decision-making and assessment literacy, helping our teachers and our administrators understand how to use data more effectively to make and inform our decisions. We want to have really targeted support for our English language learners because that's where we see some of our most significant gaps, along with our students who are experiencing disabilities. We want to provide good professional development and support for our staff. Improve our community engagement. We've seen a lot of strides going forward the last couple of years in terms of getting more staff and student and teacher and parent voice in our decision, but especially within our family and community, we want to keep increasing that. And then we want to think about our student-centered support systems. This year, we've been doing a lot of work on our intervention systems and trying to get more consistent with that. So posted to this, and we will be posting on the website for our community to be able to review, is our both current plan and our new application questions that we have to fill out. In reality, our plan is not changing a great deal because when they put all these pots of money in together, we had budgets already built for all of them and people who we had hired and systems that we had built. And we couldn't just say, oh, now that it's a brand new big plan, we're gonna turn over the apple cart and start all over. It was like, no, we're gonna figure out how do we use this to make these plans more effective. The only big add to the plan is that we're trying to put in Jumpstart into our student investment account. So that is in a secure pot of funds. And so that's really the only add. Am I right, Linda, with that? For the most part, the funding goes towards those CTE programs that we're building, helping with our ESOL endorsements, helping get training for staff on various different things, and improving our academic outcomes by really focusing on solid instructional strategies. So the new application questions ask us more about how we're doing that and what we did from before and how we're seeing those outcomes flesh out. These are 6 outcomes that we've identified. Really, they focus on those big picture items that we're trying to really move and look for outcomes on. So looking to improve belonging and inclusion, making sure every student graduates college and career ready with employability skills, supporting training on solid instructional practices. We'd identified specifically culturally responsive practices in our strategic plan. I think that list is going to expand as part of our work with both Youth Truth and looking at the data we saw, as well as some work that Dan and I are doing on like developing an instructional framework. We're gonna look at our CTE programs and figure out how to expand those to get even more students participating in that coursework. And then we are looking to increase academic achievement in math and literacy and science for all students as measured by the state assessments, and fostering that community engagement by bringing more parent and community voice to the table. So I'm not going to read through all of these, but these are some of our key investments that have been built into those plans prior to the integrated plan and continuing with the integrated plan. Things like making sure that we have good networks of support and intervention for students, having multi-tiered intervention systems developed, which is something we're working on this year, thinking about how we can braid better practices into our schooling so that we have better access points for students, and increasing our opportunities for those CTE pathways and college and career options for kids. As well as making sure that we are looking at our core instruction and improving what instruction looks like in the classroom, building the capacity of our ELL program, increasing language arts performances through really good high quality professional development for our staff, and increasing parent engagement and community communication. And we're gonna be measured on that using, luckily, the exact things that we've identified. And this is one piece that I'm actually really excited about. When we think about the metrics, we are linking all of our metrics together. We're not saying, well, we're gonna measure this success in this way and this success in another way. Dan's goals are the same thing as the integrated plan. Our hope with probably moving forward with the strategic plan is gonna be the integrated plan. So it's those big metrics that we know are kind of core to the health of our system. If these are off, we know that things are not running the way they need to. So looking at things like our high school success requirements, our CTE performance requirements, progress markers that we identify through our state assessments. We have some local optional metrics that we've added, which include our enrollment and success in our CTE classes and college credit classes. We also have things like our financial reporting and our auditing that are part of our performance measures. And then from there, we work with ODE and we set up longitudinal performance growth targets. So it's a combination. These growth targets are, where are we now and how are we just trying to grow gradually over 5 years? As well as how are our focal students doing? And our focal students are students who have been historically underserved within our system. So specifically our language learners, our students experiencing disabilities, and our students with lower SES. And so what we do is we set our goal for our entire district, and then we set goals for our focal students, because often there's a gap, right, between our all student group and our students who maybe historically been underserved. And then we try to figure out how we're going to grow in both of those categories. Last year, or last time we set our goals, we really worked to create a path that looked like this. So we're growing as a district because obviously those scores on a whole are not where we want them to be. For our focal students, they're even lower and not where we want them to be. So we need to grow as a district, but our focal students need to actually grow faster. So eventually within a few years, those things aren't gapped anymore. They are one and the same goal, and all students are achieving at the same level. So I just put in this data so you could have a reminder of where we're at currently and what our goal is around these places. This is specifically Dan's goals for a superintendency, but this is where we're shooting to be at that state average, if not higher. I will say, and it's one of those places where you feel the urgency, but you also feel the reality. Where when we set the goals with ODE, because the goal setting process is hand in hand with ODE, they will ask us questions, they will tweak our numbers in front of us if they don't like them. That there are times where we're gonna say it needs to be at 60%, and they're like, we're gonna look at statistically, schools your size don't make that big of a jump in 1 year. Let's set it at 40 or something like that. So sometimes they're gonna shoot us a little lower, because it's what is more of a realistic goal, and then it's our job to prove them wrong and go get even higher. So remember, it's attendance, 3rd grade reading, 8th grade math, 9th grade on track to graduation, the on-time graduation and the 5th year. And then we also set another goal that isn't part of Dan's goals, which is enrollment in our CTE classes. And so this is our ODE timeline. We are going to go and get this out for public comment. So this is going to be posted on the web for people to give feedback on. Then we will submit to ODE, and then they will go through the process to help us co-develop those goals, make any revisions to the plan as needed, and then hopefully it gets approved. And we use that to start building other plans as we're moving forward.
We'll do questions. Kelsey, we're gonna start with you.
Thanks, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Heidi?
Yeah, oh. Jenny, okay.
No, yeah, you're good.
So on the slide that says our outcomes, and there's A through F, are those prioritized, like A would be your, A is the most important, B is the most important?
Partly because each of those outcomes are typically associated with its own pot of funds. And so they each have kind of equal importance, where the larger overarching thing is how, I would say that large, big goal of improving academic achievement, though, is the umbrella that fits over all of those outcomes. Because we know it's kind of an interesting aspect, right? If, for example, I'll take high school. If we have students who are not achieving in their regular math class, then suddenly they don't have access to CTE classes because they don't have room in their schedule to take their fun elective because they need to retake math. If they fail English, same thing, we're gonna actually create barriers. So that overarching academic achievement, starting as early as possible, is our top priority because we know it's what makes all those other things happen. But also at the same time, all those other things are things that feed into academic achievement. So the right intervention systems being in place, kids feeling like they belong in school, improving attendance, all are also gonna feed into that larger umbrella kind of goal. So these really are like a braided together outcomes. There isn't anything like this takes priority over this, because you take away one and you still have some of the exact same problems.
So when we look at like the key investment slide, some of that is kind of warm fuzzy stuff to me
Yeah.
because I'm not a, educator, so I don't understand the lingo all the time. But, so here's my question. We see all this stuff and then we get down to the actual like graphs, 3rd grade reading, 8th grade math, etc. And it's like, I'm trying to figure out how come in 22-23, which was which was after COVID. How come we've gone down since then? I don't understand it. And that's something that I have not been able to understand. As a board member for years, and I'm sure that's, on me, but. I don't understand why our numbers are low. I don't understand why we're low compared to other similar districts. I wish we could maybe have a time where we could meet and talk about this in more of maybe a workshop setting or something. But I guess because I'm at the end of my time and it's kind of like, I don't feel like maybe we've helped. So I'm kind of struggling to understand why, why this is. We talk, we got new curriculum, it's gonna be different this year. Oh, we have new professional development, it's gonna be better this year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just my frustrations.
No, I hear you, I feel it.
Well, I think. So in 2 weeks is a work session, and I'm gonna be bringing back these major data points. And so to respond to that, I can, after, almost a year on the job, I can give you what I see as some of the issues are. I can point to maybe some areas where we've done some things well and starting to make some changes. So I think that we can prepare to have a more open conversation with you in a work session format where I can give you an update on some of these data points. Several months ago, we gave, what data do we look at that should predict how well we do? We'll come back with some follow-ups to that, is where we're seeing we're gonna be. But it's a total fair question.
Yeah, it's a fair question. I think I think for me, it's really easy to what Dan's saying is it's really easy to get into a space where I can give you a lot of reasons. And I remember last year when Bill and I presented, like, we can look at, for example, the COVID years and see how it's trickled through our system, right? There wasn't a point, and there's research now that's been done that says it's gonna be almost a generation before some of that impacts of the gaps that were created during COVID fully flesh themselves out of our system or flush themselves out of our system. What it has to change though, to the, I think the point you're making is it's kind of like, so what are we gonna do differently then? It can't just be like, let's just throw another PD at it. There has to be some real systemic looking at like what is not working within our system. I feel like this year, probably more than any other year during my tenure here, even prior, I have seen a push towards that systems thinking. And really wanting to step back and like look within the data, of like how do we keep like approaching this differently? I'm hearing the principals talk about it different. You know, we're talking about it just different at the district office level. So my hope is we're starting to see some shifts, and I think we will bring the data to the table, but like the things we're seeing at the primary school, which is our first indicator, right? You know, the canary in the coal mine, like if kids leave second grade off track, it gets harder and harder and harder to get them back on track. We're seeing like fewer kids off track, and that's exciting. And so we know that some of this is finally starting to get some traction. I think the other hard piece of it, to the other point you made, is we, within those, here are our investments, you're right, it's legal, it's education ease. Those, all of those bullet points translate into this teacher was hired, right, to do this work. So the question is like, is it the right work, and have we put the investment in the right place? And that's the other thing we have to sort out. Especially in this next iteration of this you know, initiative, because we can't just keep saying, well, this is what we're spending SIA on, so let's just keep spending it. It's like, if this is not actually gaining us some results, is it time to make a different investment and put our money in a different spot? A good example is one of the funding sources that we typically have is Title I. It's not part of the integrated plan, though we typically kind of braid it together. Or not Title I, Title II. Title II does professional development. This last couple of years, we've been focusing on math. We've seen some gains in terms of teacher perspective, but not always the gains we want to see score-wise. We are shifting our funding. It's like no more investing in this if we're not seeing the growth we need. And we're focusing next year a lot more on language development and how do we give teachers some specific training. We haven't done any training like that in the district for multiple years. It's time. And we have brand new staffs that are ready for it. So those type of investments and strategic thinking is a huge part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Glenn,
Okay.
Merle,
No, I echo those concerns.
Me too.
Month after month goes by and Heidi says we get new curriculums and we're gonna go ahead. And we are down by 50%. Oregon is not at the top of the list nationwide. It's very close to the bottom. And I feel like too, I look around and I say, staff is great, I like them, and it looks like we're doing well. And then you look at the numbers and you say, what are we fooling ourselves? And then there's all this graded and equity and cultural and all the rest that's woven in there, and you say, what are we doing? Can they read? Can they do math? Can they think critically? And that's a rhetorical question, but you get the answer. I look forward to a work session.
Robert,
Well, I agree with both of you guys. But I'd just be interested to find out historically, when was it good? Do we know that? Like when did we go off the cliff?
Yeah, there's two things. We were actually having this conversation this morning. There were points within North Marion's kind of history where we saw better scores. Funny enough, though, there was also a point about then where Oregon said, we're gonna change the standard. And the test changed completely. It went from an assessment that typically took like a day in class to something now that could take 2 to 3 days to finish. They've kind of started to go backwards, realizing they're over testing kids. They started shortening the assessment, and now it doesn't give us as good of data. So the question became, is it that we moved the bar? We moved the goalpost, and it is now, the goalpost is where it should be, but now none of us can make field goals? Or is it that they changed it too far? Or is it that we haven't yet changed to meet what that new standard was, or that our standards were too low before? There was and this was actually at the point when I was an administrator here prior. That moment where you saw a lot of schools who had been doing really well, suddenly their test scores just plummeted, and part of it was the shift in how we were approaching the standards as a state and how they were being assessed. So it's hard to even compare, like, if we could only do what we used to be doing in like 2012, 13, let's just do that. It's like, well, we were doing that even when our test scores started dropping because they changed the finish line, basically.
And I'm old enough to remember that we didn't have disruptive classrooms.
Sure.
We were all taking those tests and we all had there's certain requirements in order for you to get to that next grade. And if you didn't, you were held back. My brother was one of those that were held back, and for a good reason. He's a dentist now, but so I don't know. I just think there was definitely there is a point there where things did change.
And I'll just say like, I mean, I do echo that sentiment, and I'm looking forward to the work session. I think accountability is an issue that we've had. And I'm glad to have the team that we do, looking at all those system-wide changes that we need. My son, Robert, graduated and did very well in 2016 here, so hopefully we can get the majority of back on track. But thank you, Des, for all your effort and energy and preciseness and detailedness that goes into these critical reports that we have to get submitted. Yeah, so I just want to thank you for that so much, and we look forward to hearing from you.
The one
Yeah.
thing I do not know, because on the ODE thing, it said approve. And in the other thing I read, it said present for feedback, and I do not know if we need an approval, so.
We'll have to check on that. So
Yes.
we might add an action item on
The work session.
in the works.
Can we just get one tonight? Can we do that now? Or not?
That's not a bad idea.
I think just do it.
Yeah, do it. It doesn't
Yeah.
It won't hurt anything.
Right. Yeah.
You're saying you need an approval so you can submit and get the grants that we need to.
Yes, exactly,
And
exactly.
that doesn't keep us from having a
Yeah.
serious discussion later on.
Yeah.
I think too.
Yeah,
That
I do believe last time we did approve it.
I did,
And
yes, I just
there
don't
was
know
a
what
hard
was,
deadline.
there is April 30th is my deadline to submit. And I just don't know if, yeah, so yes, if we could submit
Yeah.
for approval, I think it would save us all some heartache of having to come back for sure.
So hearing that, do I hear a motion to approve the integrated plan as presented?
I'll make the motion that we approve the integrated plan as presented.
Do I hear a second?
I'll be the cool man seconding.
So we have a first from Merle and a second from Robert. All those in favor? Oh, do we have any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And this will all be posted on the website as well, along with a Google form for parents to give comments if they'd like, and we can continue to make improvements.
So Des, so there were a couple things that you and I had talked about, kind of making sure we covered before we transitioned.
Sure.
Or at least some point tonight.
Mhm.
So one was next year's school calendar. I
Oh,
think you wanted.
yes. So just a reminder, that last year we approved 2 calendar years. And so we have posted on the website a reminder to families, and we'll be sending out a communication. But just for you as a board, as a reminder that you've already approved the calendar for next year. And we just want to we've gotten some comments like, when's the calendar gonna be decided? It's like, no, we're done. We got this for next year already. So we're just putting out a reminder for that.
And the second one is in your weekly update you got last week. I officially told you that we're pausing the strategic plan development until the fall. And so I just wanted to make sure that that was in the public record that we're doing that, and give you all of the reasons with couple new principals, new business manager, board elections. The ability of our staff at this point in time to really commit to doing that, fall seems like a better time to do that, and it is still, our intent to not have an outside consultant, save the money, figure out a way to do it ourselves. I know, although Heidi, you may not be on the board at that point, I know you expressed an interest, maybe we can bring you back as a facilitator of that or something like that,
That'd be great.
Yeah.
okay, all right. So, we do look forward to doing that, because I think some of the concerns that were shared, a lot of the things that we can focus on will be a good part of that process.
Yeah, and with the integrated plan at that point will be approved, it will allow us to bring some of that to the table as part of the discussion with that planning, so. I think the more we can weave all those things together, the stronger they become, because it's, here's our strategic plan and here are the investments we're actually making to ensure that that plan can have some legs.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Right, so,
The PowerPoint down?
This one. Doesn't. Either one, I'm not sure if that one will take you. No, there we go. So, a month ago, I've been attending some of our ELL migrant, family nights. I think I've attended 3 of them, maybe, Irma. So this year, and so, in March, I facilitated a listening session with the parents that attended to better understand their feedback and experiences. And I just want to thank Irma has been leading these meetings. It's, I would encourage you to attend one at some point in the future, because they're wonderful, and you can sense the sense of community, openness, people's comfortability just to share their thoughts and feelings openly. So I just want to thank you for your work in creating such a great environment for our ELL migrant families. So, this is gonna be a pretty short and sweet presentation, and so after I presented, so Heidi brought up the kind of the comparison data. So if you remember a few months ago, I showed some comparisons to other districts that were like-sized and whatnot. So I shared that with these families and said basically that our Latino students, or students that English is not their home language, aren't performing at the ability that we feel like they should be able to. And really want to emphasize the fact that I think that all of our students are not at the potential that we know that they possess. And really, the purpose of this was to listen to our parents to say, in this case, if our students are not meeting their potential, what is getting in their way? And so I thought that their responses were worth sharing. So one thing that they felt is that students aren't taking enough responsibility for their learning. They also thought that we need to communicate better with parents. And they shared, especially as Spanish speakers, that it's difficult as parents to be involved in their students' learning. And they also felt that parents need to be more accountable and give their best effort to support their children. So they were pointing the fingers back at themselves to say they could do a better job parenting. Then we asked them what supports were needed. They said we need more reading support, more math support. They need tutoring and after school in all schools. And that parents, and I think that for this particular demographic, felt like they need more training, better access on how to use the tools that we provide, that they feel that maybe as Spanish speaking families that they're not fully equipped to use the tools that we have there for them. And then kind of this question, I kind of put it into kind of some themes of, so what are students struggling with? Why are they struggling? And how do we fix it? That's kind of what the what, why, and how is aiming to say. So where are students struggling? Reading, math, and science. Why are they struggling, they really feel like their students don't comprehend, that sometimes they can read along and sound like they're reading, but they truly are not comprehending what they're reading. And so that was something that I heard over and over at their tables, is that they listen to their kids read, they feel like they are reading somewhat fluently, but then they don't understand. And interesting enough, I think maybe this kind of get into what you're saying, Robert, a little bit about what are our expectations for kids and how do we have some accountability? And they really feel like we need to raise expectations for kids. And so I really thought, well, we'll go ahead and kind of cover these up. So these are just some other things that were on the list of things that they said. They said attendance matters, kids are distracted, social media gets in the way, kids don't get enough sleep. Lessons need to be more interactive, kids need more time to process, and that we need to teach kids better study habits. And then the next one, I also heard that parents need resources, parents and teachers need to better motivate children, more preschool opportunities, more teacher assistants to help students, better nutrition, parents don't understand today's math. I think everybody would say, yep, that's me. And underperforming students lose motivation. I thought that was really insightful. And so here's the thing that I just want to point out and pause here for a second, is that, so this makes up almost 50% of our population is our Latino students. I don't think you heard anything different there that is no different than a white parent or anything else. Our Latino parents want the same things for their kids. Now, the how might just be different in terms, you saw some things there that are different barriers for them in terms of utilizing our resources. But ultimately, a lot of the things that they wish for their kids are the same things that we would wish for all kids. I do think that our data does say that our Latino students are not performing at the same rate and level as our white students, so we have a responsibility to figure that out and do something to address that. But the feedback from the parents is they want the same things for their kids. So I don't think they shared anything new, but we still have data that says we have a responsibility to better understand why their children are not performing at the same rate as our white students. Which I think is the reason why I'm really looking forward to the superintendent's advisory work group for equitable experiences and outcomes. That's a mouthful. With my teammates, I just said the work group. And so, because it really is about what are the equitable experiences and outcomes? What do our families, in this context or in this particular example, our Latino families, are they reporting positive experiences and having the same outcomes as our white students? And so I'm really excited that we've got 5 parents that have applied for it. We have 2 students that have applied for it. We have 1 staff member. I'd like to recruit some more staff members. We'll probably, now you have a responsibility to approve my recommendation of this work group in June. So, so that we can begin some work to find out how we can better serve these students.
And Dan, can you just
Yeah.
share a little bit on why we're having this work group?
So this is required by law. So, Senate Bill, do you remember some number?
I know, it's one of the Senate bills.
732. So it's required by law. It's required that the superintendent bring you the list of those people that are on the work group. I don't like the word committee. Because we're going to meet in a group and we're gonna do work.
Yeah.
And so, and then you need to approve that, and they do need to report to the board periodically. So.
Great, Robert,
Well, you know,
Merle,
2 things.
Mhm.
One is, I think we need to enlarge our vision and consider other factors for disparities rather than just race. There's family makeup, there's home situations. And I'm sure I could think of some more things that make a difference. 2-parent families versus 1, and so on. And we don't even think about that. It's just with this and this. The other thing I would continue to encourage is that we recruit members rather than just take the volunteers. As we'll get the same vocal few unless we go out and recruit and. I guess I could try too, but that's your job, you're the
Yeah.
nominator. But we could make suggestions or your staff could.
Mhm.
They might know people who just need a little encouragement. That would give us a little broader view on that work group.
Yes,
What?
A couple points of clarification, is this the equity committee that's mandated by law?
yes,
Okay, is it a standing committee or is it a superintendent's committee?
I'm calling it a superintendent's work group.
Okay, so it doesn't have the same public,
Correct.
okay. That's my only clarification.
Hey,
Oh, thank you.
Jenny? Kelsey? Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
All right. Is this you too?
Who's this?
Sure.
What?
Who's next?
Oh, not
Style
me.
education?
All right, so we thought that we would end our meeting tonight with a very positive video, featuring some of our middle school students and middle school staff. Des, do you want to explain what Style is, just so we have some context there?
Yeah, Style is the materials that we selected for the middle school for our science adoption. And it has been really well received by our students. It's very hands-on, digital, very digital heavy, but very hands-on at the same time with like lab experiments, etc. Style's a newer company and the work that we've done at the middle school, they've been super excited about. So they actually requested to come and film the work that's as kids were working on it and it was happening and are using Arts District as a promotional, as part of their promotional system as they go out and. Oh, yes, and if you're listening at home, you will not have access to the volume, but there is a link in the board agenda found on the website. You can watch it through your own computer at home, since we cannot figure out how to make it work on this end. So I'm gonna be muting it, because otherwise we're gonna get horrible feedback.
this off and they're gonna do it this Saturday. It's gonna be wonderful weather and.
So wonderful. You're all invited. It'll be a wonderful time with our families.
Okay, so we have future meetings, topics, and new business, and Dan took notes about the work session requests. So we're gonna adjourn the regular business meeting, but we're going into executive session, so I'm just gonna take this opportunity to read that before we adjourn and turn off our recording. So we're going into executive session 192.660 The board will now meet in executive session according to ORS 192.660 to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. We will not be reopening the session afterwards. We are adjourned. I will make a note. We have mine. That Robert joined the meeting at 6:09. Glenn joined the meeting at 6:30, and we're adjourning at 7:07 PM.